the gap in the resume could really sometimes be the boogeyman
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to just attack it right
Mm-hmm.
out the gate. And again, I'm coming back to the consult because people are so worried about it. There's a lot of story that gets
Mm-hmm.
built up around the gap. The gap could be, I was a stay-at-home mother for 30
Mm-hmm.
years
Mm-hmm.
and I supported
Mm-hmm.
my husband through law school, and now we're divorced and the kids are out on their own, and
Mm-hmm.
then what about me, and I have no skills, which is
Mm-hmm.
totally crap. Of
Mm-hmm.
course you do,
I agree.
right?
I agree.
So that to, 6 months because you got laid off, or 2 years because you were in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of ways to go about this, but the simple way to say this is, in the end, it's the story that you can perform in front of people.
Right. Welcome to the Four Peaks Parents Podcast with your host, Thomas Miller. I'm so excited to have with me today Kelley Joyce. Kelley Joyce is someone I've gotten to know over my career, our careers, I should say. And she is a seasoned career coach. She's the founder of The Truth at Work. She brings her corporate expertise and her own personal journey through burnout and recovery to the table. Kelley works with professionals and young adults who have had some bang-ups and hang-ups, right? And
Yeah.
maybe along the way may or may not have had a stint to treatment, or may not have
Mhm.
had some struggles with mental health or addiction. And she helps them reset, rebuild their confidence, and get back into, obviously, the workforce. So excited to have Kelley on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I'm really excited to speak with you and your audience.
Yeah, and I think, as much as, of course, this is a show for parents, right,
Yeah.
that have a lot of young adults. A lot of our
Mhm.
listeners have young adults as well as tweens and teens.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of, as you know, we all know, right, this whole failing to launch thing. But
Yep.
I think your work goes beyond simply just the young adult, right, who may or may not have what's called co-occurring issues,
Yep.
mental health and addiction. You obviously work with all kinds of folks, right, that maybe need a second, third, fourth, even fifth act.
Yes.
And you're always kind of doing such a great job of helping folks really kind of galvanize and look at what they already got, right? Because
Yes.
I think so many folks forget how skilled and capable they are.
All the
And
time.
right. And they've had some sort of, kind of, again, it could be a bang up, a hang up, it could be, whatever, in or out of their control. But where do you start? Well, let's kind of start there. What's like your typical, how you approach just helping someone maybe take that breath
Yeah.
and congeal and just kind of assess and kind of begin the process of re-entering, right, their career. So let's talk to us about that.
Yeah. So the everyone starts in the same place, and that place is a consult. And people might refer themselves directly to me, but oftentimes it's a loved one or a professional. Maybe it's their therapist, for example. But I have lots of family, lots of parents, siblings, even spouses that say, hey, I really think that it's time for my loved one to have support. They've been going it alone and it's not going anywhere, or it's just too difficult. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
make it more difficult?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is kind of, even though it feels like pre-process, I mean, even that starting to turn yourself over to something like that is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny. I mean, I could have 3, 4 people wanting the potential client to speak to me, and it doesn't mean anything until they say yes. To even
Sure.
have that first conversation, free, like no
Mm-hmm.
obligation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
conversation. And
Sure.
that can be really scary for people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's actually a pretty big, relief and support for someone to start to talk about what is and what isn't going on with your career.
Yeah. Well, I have kind of a direct question in a way. I guess it's not right or wrong, but I have so many clients that have had a stint, let's say a treatment, whether they've relapsed, whether
Mhm.
they finally availed themselves, which is a courageous act, right? Of addiction,
Mhm.
treatment experience, sober living, could be
Mhm.
more on the mental health or co-occurring side, and there's a gap in the resume. And
Right.
so I've heard a million. I have my own, and I can tell you my answer, and you could give me a grade.
Mhm.
I've heard a million suggestions over the years, many of which I think are not spot on. Some
Mhm.
are great, but how
Sure.
do you coach someone even around the gaps in their resume
Mhm.
when they're going through an interview process?
Yeah.
And I know it's highly individualized, and there's, a gap could be 6 months, and other gaps
Could
could
be
be years and
years.
years. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, what advice do you give to folks
Yeah.
when they're having maybe some shame or embarrassment, or they're making that become the reason why,
Mm.
right? They can't get back, on the horse, so to speak, and jump back into their careers.
Yeah. Well, the gap in the resume could really sometimes be the boogeyman,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to just attack it right
Mm-hmm.
out the gate. And again, I'm coming back to the consult, because people are so worried about it. There's a lot of story that gets
Mm-hmm.
built up around the gap. The gap could be, I was a stay-at-home mother for 30
Mm-hmm.
years,
Mm-hmm.
and I supported
Mm-hmm.
my husband through law school, and now we're divorced, and the kids are out on their own, and
Mm-hmm.
then what about me, and I have no skills, which is
Mm-hmm.
totally crap. Of
Mm-hmm.
course you do,
I agree.
right?
I agree.
So that to, 6 months because you got laid off, or 2 years because you were in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of ways to go about this, but the simple way to say this is, in the end, it's the story that you can perform in front of people.
Right.
I usually do this whole tactic of, let's talk about half a dozen ways that you could talk about the gap,
Mm-hmm.
even to the most ridiculous,
Right.
like funny, you'd never say it kind of stuff. And then we
Right.
get down to a couple of options and we role play them. And what's the one that you could actually get through in an authentic way?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you have to deliver it. I wish I could
Mm-hmm.
deliver it for you,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to do it. And so some people, they want to stay surface level and just be like, hey, this is what happened,
Mm-hmm.
I got laid off or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's like I got laid off and there was something else going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or some people just flat out saying, hey, I needed a mental health break.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I took responsibility. I am
Mm-hmm.
1,000% better now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
rock and roll for you.
Mm-hmm. That's I give myself a probably B plus, actually, because maybe even an A, because I say pretty much the same thing. I always use the example of maternity leave or an entrepreneur.
Sure.
I have a lot of entrepreneurial clients who, when they think about going back into corporate or think about going back into whatever, it is actually funny that as an entrepreneur myself, who owned a building, who scaled a mental health community-based mental health center, and my wife and I were washing, literally cleaning the toilets
Mm.
and washing everything and answering the phones and fighting insurance companies. All, it is easy how you're like, oh my god, like, what do I write there under? Do I just write like entrepreneur or founder?
Chief bottle
But when
washer.
you right, exactly, when you start chunking down, same thing with being a stay-at-home parent, mother, or father, is
Mhm.
like, when you start chunking down, you're a project manager, like you're
Oh, yeah.
you're you're
Team
a
leader.
COO, you're a team leader, you're same thing with the military. So I think I'm with you too, that attacking it head on is always the way to go. And I'm always encouraging my clients to be like, look, that gap right there, that gap is where I, yes, fell on my sword. I failed forward. I raised my hand and said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got in the rooms. I did,
Yeah.
this, I did that. I got uncomfortable. I
Mhm.
learned how to work, whatever. And yes, I was in treatment, and now I have,
Mhm.
12 months, 18 months, 3 years, whatever that
Yep.
is, of sobriety, or just, solidity with
Yep.
self. I'm so glad I get 3 gold stars,
Yeah.
because I'm a big fan too of, I don't think skirting anything. Now, granted, do you have to tell, I always say to clients,
Everything? No.
you don't have to tell everything.
No.
You don't have to, get on top of a building with a bullhorn and
No.
shout this all over LinkedIn or
No.
whatever, but you can. I mean, we live in a world now where people are throwing up their coins all the time,
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
it's M&M or some,
yeah,
professional person. And I know it's easy for clients to be like, well, that's M&M or they have whatever.
sure.
But I think the going through that in a way,
Mhm,
like you said, and I
mhm,
love what you said about you come up with 4 or 5
mhm.
different taglines, so to speak, and then you figure out which one you can actually
Yeah.
exercise. I
And
love that.
this is old. I mean, my prior career was in public relations for 18
Mhm.
years. I ran PR
Mhm.
firms for
Mhm.
software companies.
Mhm.
And so I was a media relations trainer. And,
Mhm.
interview was
Mhm.
where it's at.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, doing a coffee is easier than sitting with the Wall Street Journal,
Mhm.
right? About saying about
Mhm.
like why were your earnings terrible? Like
Mhm.
those kinds of things.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
there's a couple things to think about the gap is one is um, that now it's kind of cool, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Society has changed,
Mhm.
COVID, right? Quiet quitting, flat out quitting, taking sabbaticals. It's hip now. So much
Mhm.
so that even on LinkedIn, there's a option called career break.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
people are just owning that story more. It
Yeah.
used to be the first time where there was a lot of career breaks was in 2008. So
With the
the Great
bubble burst.
Recession,
Bubble,
the
yeah,
Great
the great.
Recession, right? Very, very good people lost their jobs, and it was devastating. And it was really the
Mhm.
first time that we'd seen en masse people with big breaks, and people were
Mhm.
worried, and that was new to the market. Now, someone
Mhm.
takes a break. I don't think HR even blanks.
I think that's such a great point that what you're saying is society has normalized this. And again, I think also because you have a background in PR, right?
Mhm,
You're going to help people
mhm,
again communicate better, represent themselves more effectively. And I always say to clients that even a negative exposure is a positive
mhm.
exposure, in terms of how you manage it,
As long as it's felt
right?
right.
It's what yeah, 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 and, like, I always say, like, there's a podcast episode way back when called Tear and Repair, which is, like, I am way more the terror in the family as in, than my wife is. My wife has a way squeakier clean, lower exposure.
Mm.
However, I am the best at repairing in the household. So,
Oh,
my superpower is on the repair side. I wish I'd tour a little less, but hey, I'm Sicilian. I'm from Long Island. I can't. No, I'm just kidding. There's things I could do, of course. I always try to get regulated before I try to regulate my kids because a dysregulated Sicilian Long Island guy is not
mm,
not going to do too well. But it's kind of that low EQ to high EQ.
mm.
The tear to the repair, the negative exposure to the positive exposure. I think that's so nice, and it's like must be such a disarming thing,
Oh,
right? When you're sitting there and you're building presence with people and being like, it's okay, you're good. Like
you're
you not
good.
only you good, society's good. The LinkedIn example is a great one.
Yeah.
Talk to me also about some other, because I knew that was a question I definitely wanted to ask you about the gaps
Great.
or the breaks, because that's something that so many of my clients in the past have used as,
A
this
way to
this
stay away from it.
right, this avoidance, which we know is BS, but there's value there, there's shame there, there's embarrassment there.
Sure.
What are some other similar speed bumps, whether self-limiting beliefs, erroneous thinking or distortions, whatever you want to call it, that you help clients move through as well, that you
Yeah.
see cropping up quite a bit?
I see a lot of undervaluing.
Mm,
Uh, I've done posts about this. It was, gosh, what was it? It was like 10 ways you undervalue you,
mm,
right?
mm,
And how it shows up.
mm-hmm,
And it shows up all across the way that you present yourself. So it might look like going low on the kind of job,
mm-hmm,
maybe a level or two below.
mm-hmm,
Oh, I can't do that
mm-hmm,
kind of thing. So you never even try.
mm,
Um, on your resume, right? Just underrepresentation, under articulation. There's all my unders. I have to remember all of them.
mm-hmm,
But the
mm-hmm,
under
mm-hmm,
articulation is prolific. Oh my goodness.
mm-hmm,
I spend so
mm-hmm.
much time dragging information out of people. Things like how much money did you generate? How many people did you manage? What's the impact that you created? What's the outcome and the results? And
Mhm.
people forget. I spend a lot of time helping people remember or like
Mhm.
put things together so that
Mhm.
they could showcase who they are. And
Mm.
there's been times where I've put people's resumes together and they actually cried when they saw it
That's beautiful.
because they said things like, "I can't believe this is me."
Mm. Well, it's that's so beautiful. There's this it's funny. I'm thinking of like the metaphors and adages that I've used over, oh my God, I'm getting old now. I think I'm 24, 25 years now in this space.
Mhm,
And one of them is that elephants have this long memory and they remember water sources from when they were infants.
mm,
And that ability to remember, like, I think there's like this little pond thingy over there, like, I think it might be like 25 miles away. We got to go over there. And some geologists on this listening is probably like rolling their eyes because I'm probably just botching the hell out of that whole thing. But I do know that they have really long-term memories, and that
mhm,
long-term memory keeps them alive because they can remember these tributaries, right, of
yep.
water sources that
They like
when there's
mud
a
too.
drought. Right. When there's a drought, and it's the same sort of thing, is that when there's a drought, it's so hard for us, especially when we have an inner bitch, inner critic, inner gremlin, that's really loud, right? For us
Mhm,
to bring these things to the surface, and that work you do that just allows, right, this person to kind of suture themselves back together and see, no, in fact, I am the summation
mhm,
of my story. I'm not just this little
mhm,
sick part or this
mhm,
broken part or this diminutive part. And when you put it all together,
mhm.
there's a lot of transferability there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One
That's awesome.
one of the very first things that I do with people is we talk about their skills. It's
Mm,
either the first or the second session we do together, and we talk about their hard skills and their soft skills. Everyone insists that they don't have any. They
mm,
all it doesn't matter if they're a PhD or, they've been to 3 colleges and they don't know if
mhm,
they're a sophomore or not, like
mhm,
and I do it intentionally upfront before any decisions are made about what they wanna do or who they're going after because I want them to experience their intrinsic value.
mhm,
You are you. You
mhm.
bring this to the table. Some lucky person is going to hire you. And I just want them they need the time and the space
Sure,
to
sure,
get comfortable with the fact that
sure.
they're gonna go be their own spokesperson and talk about how they're that they can analyze or they can write or they can
Mhm,
negotiate or they can
mhm,
design or whatever they're gonna do.
mhm, mhm.
And it takes a little while.
It does, especially, I don't want to get too psychobabbly here, but if you have trauma, right? If you have these like entrenched neural pathways, right? If you're picking up the shame stick every
Mhm,
day, there
mhm,
is still shame and stigma, of course. However, I've seen so much progress, like you just even mentioned about on the career normalcy, for lack of a better word, of breaks that shifted.
uh-huh,
And even someone like, I agree that I think saying, oh, that break, let me tell you about that break. I'm actually proud of that break. That break
right,
is how I got my life back. That break is how I earned grit and resolve and resiliency. That's how I actually reclaimed, safety and trust for myself and for my family and my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Um, eh, that's not just like a bullshit spin, or some Pollyanna rose colored glasses.
mhm,
That's true.
mhm,
And that person has to break down so many of these archaic, kind of ways of thinking of themselves and
mhm,
constructs, but also even the way of relating to the universe. Like you talked about, people are less apt to be kind of self-promoting in
mhm,
the unders, like you talked
yep,
about, right? The minimization of
yeah.
self,
And
right?
some of that's
So
cultural too, by the way.
tell me more.
So in the US, you know, we're mostly taught to, say like, well, you got to go out there and do your thing.
Oh,
But
sure.
I do
Yes.
coach outside the United States
Yes.
and Europe, and especially
Yes.
Australia, New Zealand. They have
Yes.
cultural stories around not boasting. And
Yes.
even what
Yeah.
feels very mundane to us feels like really, really pushing the limits. The Australians have a whole national story, called the tall poppy.
Mm.
That in a field of poppies, the tall one gets cut down.
Mm.
And so there's cultural aspects to it too.
Oh, sure. One of not my first, but when I was clinical director of wilderness therapy program, I doubt he's listening, but Dr. Robert Dyson, great guy, amazing leader. Big shout out to him. He was Dutch, and he used to have the same thing. He used to
Mhm.
be like, if you were for him to say he's like brilliant or smart,
He'd
he
never
used to
say that.
joke. He used to joke like he'd have to win like the Nobel Peace Prize, like
Yeah,
like or like a Pulitzer or something. Like you would never, in a Dutch culture,
never.
be like, I'm brilliant, or they're brilliant, or even they're brilliant. And he's like, you hear that word brilliant like every other day, or every other hour, even maybe in the US. So no, that's a really great point. That's a really great point. When you see this person like beginning to, like you said, see the resume or the shoulders drop, or
Mm,
they put the shame stick down, or they're almost inoculating themselves maybe against the resistance, what do you begin to see happen there?
mm. I see a lot more acceptance of self,
Mm,
and then more willingness. A lot of this is about willingness.
mm,
More willingness to say, okay, so if I have this value, what does that mean? And what can I possibly do? So that's really getting into, okay, so there's more curiosity
mhm,
about what's out there.
mhm,
Maybe there's things that they know about, but then there's things that they don't know what they don't know. That's where I
mhm,
can step
mhm,
in
mhm,
and
mhm,
say, do you know that there's these kinds of jobs, or that these
mhm,
are the skills that are really hot right now that people
mhm,
want?
mhm,
And so people end up moving forward with some things that maybe they've had in the back of their mind for quite some time, maybe for decades, like
mhm,
decades,
mhm,
or things that they kind of know about. And then there's things that are really new. And so that's kind of more than the next step is having a plan with some options that they're willing to explore. We don't have to initially grand slam it all.
mhm,
We need
mhm,
to just
mhm,
test the waters about, is
mhm,
this something I'd like, something I hate, or something that I'm just like, I don't know. And
mhm,
that's all a win.
mhm,
That's all a win.
mhm. I
Because
like
after
that.
that, it's about action.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, curiosity I think is important. This is a show for parents, hence the Four Peaks Parents
Uh-huh.
podcast, and for the, parents listening out there who I'm sure are frustrated as all hell at
Yeah.
times, because of their
Mhm.
young adult who has all the promise in the world,
Yes.
who could again work with someone like yourself
Mhm.
and be reassembled, if you will. It's kind of like their doll parts, and maybe they're Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head, the parts, and they need just to be kind of affixed back together. What role can parents play?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure we see a lot of flying too low. At least I do. In my work, I see parents that are flying way too low, creating compression
Uh-huh.
over their loved one's journey, way too much over scaffolding, way too much trying to contrive outcomes.
Mm.
I've even heard that parents are calling the bosses of
Oh, goodness.
their loved one, and all kinds of
Oh, my
things, and
goodness.
and robbing them of agency and fighting their battles. So of course there's the negative side. Those are the do nots.
Yeah.
But we could speak to some do nots too. But what are some do's? What are some things that you would encourage
Mm.
a parent to do with a young adult who maybe had a bang up and hang up,
Sure.
and is now has anticipatory anxiety or trepidation or
Mhm.
excuse making or blame shifting
Mhm.
around getting back on the horse with their career? What can they do that would be helpful?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, parents. I love you.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
speak with you all the time, um, several a week, right? Sometimes I speak with parents before the journey. Sometimes
mhm,
I speak mid journey, kind of throughout the journey. Um, speak with a lot of dads. Like I had a really good
Mm,
dad conversation yesterday.
cool. Nice.
Um, I would encourage them to try your best not to have your vision for them
Mm,
be what they must do.
mm,
I mean, you need to keep in mind that you're not the same generation.
mhm,
You're not. You might even be two different generations, right?
mhm,
Like I'm Gen X. I'm 53. My
mhm.
mother's a boomer and my dad was a silent, right?
What with my Gen X? I'm 46.
Yeah. Are you born before 1980?
Nope, I'm 79.
Oh yeah. So there you go. So you're
I'm a
just at the
millennial
end.
still?
No, no,
I'm at
no.
the end. I'm a Gen X?
Yeah. You might be.
Okay.
You could call yourself like a zillennial
I
because
don't I
some millennials
I don't
call themselves
I don't
that.
wanna call myself any of these things. I'm uh,
Yeah.
anyway, but thank you. I'm glad I could clarify. So Gen X, yes,
Yeah.
versus oh my
So
god, right?
so the people we're
Yeah,
talking about are
yeah,
Zers,
yeah,
right? They're as
yeah.
old as 28.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
I've coached tons of them. So I've been in business for coaching for 13 years. But when
Sure.
I first started, my 20 somethings were millennials. Now
Mhm,
they're Zs, right?
mhm,
And Zs have had a really interesting time. Millennials were smacked down by the 2008 meltdown. You know, it was
mhm,
tough to get jobs. They had a tough road, right?
mhm,
Um, Zs have had COVID.
mhm,
And so some of them were in high school, some of them were in college, some of them were fresh.
mhm,
So you'll
mhm,
see a lot of them, some of them took gap years,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And now, I see a lot of them highly educated individuals. It's like Cornell and like places like that.
mhm,
And they're
mhm,
having a hard time getting an entry level job.
mhm, mhm,
It doesn't feel good.
mhm,
It doesn't help that they have anxiety about work anyway, because
mhm,
even if they had a job, they never even met their coworkers for 2 years.
mm,
Very isolating.
mhm,
Now AI has kind of marched
mhm,
in, right?
mhm,
Taking taking care of a lot of entry level
mhm,
stuff,
mhm.
right? So if you're an Xer or a millennial parent and you think that the job search is going to be the same or the expectations, you're crazy.
Mhm.
Really, like I just like person to person here,
Mhm.
right?
Keeping it real. Keeping it
Like
100.
you do need to
Mhm.
listen to what's happening in the market and then
Mhm.
differentiate between what is your child's anxiety and concerns, um, and what's really going on out there.
Mhm.
You They're not going to have the same kind of job you had.
Mhm.
They're not going to have the same kind of stability. Um, you
Well,
know,
tell me more about stability. Do you
mm,
mean more in the sense of that they're gonna transfer jobs faster? Is that what you mean? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
A lot more volatility,
Mhm.
right? Yep.
Change.
Yep. Yep. Change.
That's
Yep. Change management. Yep.
that is what is happening. And so when people come here and they job search with me, I say there's a short term and a long term benefit. The short term is you're going to get a job.
Mhm.
The long
Mhm.
term is I'm teaching you to fish.
Mm.
Every single time that you need to get a new job, you know what to do. We're going to get back on the bicycle and pedal down the road again because you know what to do.
Yeah, what I hear in there, which I love, I say this all the time, is I always say, stay in process.
Mm,
Right. And it's like once you're in process, right, the outcome is important, but not
mhm,
really. It's like you're talking about teaching them how to fish versus here's the fish. But once they understand the process of job finding,
mhm,
right, and or navigating in said space, when someone moves the gates, right, because they already know how to be a giant slalom skier,
mhm.
it's not as daunting, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're going back to zero, right? And that's so powerful. And I mean it's the same thing with the work I do with the parents. I mean, this family just reached back out and they're like, we have a crisis. And I was like, okay, tell me what's going on. What did you do? What didn't you do? And they were like, I'm like, no, you're good. Like, you don't even need me. I'm like, you're fine, right? Because they're staying, like, stay in process,
Yeah.
go back to pull up this video right in the Four Peaks parents program because there's 23 videos they get. They get a whole workbook. They had me for 3 months, or 24 sessions across that. But what is evergreen, what has been kind of ostensibly ingrained,
Mm.
that's the process. And that's each time when there is a recapitulation, that's basically means when things kind of blow up again and
Right.
we fall back into old
Mm.
dyads and triads and dynamics. We've been here before, right? Even in the program, there's, I don't know if you know the Portia de Nelson Hole in the Sidewalk poem. Do you know that?
I don't.
It's a good poem. You should check it out. It's like there's a hole in a sidewalk. I won't read the whole thing, but I pretend I don't see it. I fall in. It takes forever to get out. It's not my fault. That's the first chapter. Then
Mm.
there's a hole in the sidewalk. I see it. I still fall in. It's a habit. I'm probably doing this actually pretty well of justice. And then there's like the third chapter. I see it. I try not to fall in. I still fall in. It is my fault. I've been here before. I get out faster. Then it's
Yeah.
like there's a hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Then it's like I walk on a new street. So it's a really great poem. It's very short, but it's that idea of you've taught them
Hmm.
how to get out of the hole,
Yep.
so to speak, if and when that hole is different
Yep.
than when it was
I've,
a year
I've,
ago, because the market's always changing, like you
mhm.
described.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
This is the year that, I mean, I always have returning alumni, but this year is the year I've had the most. People
Mm,
from 8 years ago, 5 years
mm,
ago, um, and they're ready for another job, and
mm-hmm.
they're like, "Hey, we've got this good thing going, this method that I use, and let's just make it go faster."
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage people while they're working, right? Like after the job search, and whether
Mm-hmm.
you've been there 6 months or 6 years, is to stay, and like we're really throwing a lot of stuff around today. Like here's my like little Catholic thing is to stay in perpetual state of grace, right? Meaning
Mm,
always be ready,
mm-hmm.
you know, to ascend.
No, I'm not religious, but I use the Serenity Prayer all the time.
Yep.
For those that don't know the Serenity Prayer, it's huge in the rooms in 12 step. Which is God grant me the courage to change the things I can,
Mhm.
the serenity to accept the things I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that, oh my God. I mean, for any parent out there, how often are we trying to change some crap outside our circle of control?
Mhm.
And by doing so, exporting our and punting, right, the opportunity to create influence and impact and support our kids. And how do we have that serenity to know, okay,
Mhm.
this is not something I can do, but then where do I need courage as a parent? And maybe it's biting my tongue, or it's taking space, or it is at times putting a healthy foot up my kid's ass and saying, get up off the couch,
Yep.
without threats. But, clear deadlines of we do need you to hop back into the workforce, or whether it's working with,
Mhm.
Kelley or whoever, or doing whatever, it's something has to shift. So,
Yep.
and that piece around perpetual grace, that's what you said, right?
Yeah.
I love
It
that,
means you're
because
you're
there,
ready. Like you're
well,
always
but
ready
there's
to
also a
for the next thing.
humility I hear in there, which is nice. Like there was, I read something recently. I don't remember who this person was, and sorry, I'm botching this, but it was a very famous, seasoned, one of the highest black belt type person, and they chose to get buried in their white belt. I don't know what
Oh
book I got
wow.
this from, but I love that. That's kind of
It's
that
beginner's
state of
mind.
perpetual grace. Yeah, right. Like this idea of, and I always say I always want to be spongy. I never want to be a saturated sponge, and I love being the dumbest in the room. So the fact that people are reaching out is such a nice thing, because you taught them again how to fish rather than to
Mhm.
have the fish. And now the market's shifting, and now they're
Mhm.
thankfully reading the room
Yeah.
and realizing, like,
Mhm.
I have to up level,
Yeah.
right?
And
That's
it's
awesome.
it's amazing to see, there's some things I didn't really think about when I started my business, right? I didn't, because I was so focused on getting going. I didn't think about what it would be like many years down the road, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
one of my clients, he was in recovery. He went through freedom, and he was in a different spot.
Mm-hmm.
When I met him, multiple colleges, one class away from graduating with his undergraduate.
Mm.
His parents were like, "If there's anything you could do to have him finish, you know."
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
worked with him through a lot of that. He did finish. He was waiting tables
Mhm.
He was trying to figure out what else to do. Um, he calls me this year. This is my 8 years ago guy.
Mhm.
He's married down in Raleigh instead of New York. His
Mhm.
wife's PhD person.
Mhm.
He'd been
Mhm.
working at a financial services company, licensed, and was ready to move on and be like a higher level associate.
Mhm.
Um, Baby planning, all sorts of cool things. I was just blown away. I was
Yeah.
really blown away.
Yeah.
So we got him a new job that's in
Yeah.
finance,
Nice.
but I just didn't have any grasping of how,
Yeah.
when you get one person a job,
Mhm.
it has this whole ecosystem
Mhm.
of the family, the
Mhm.
spouse, the children,
Mhm.
the person you work for, the team, the company, right? And it's just they're back in the economy, right? They're spending money, they're
Mhm.
buying houses,
Mhm.
like they're doing all these kinds of cool things. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's really wonderful.
Well, the thing, you could steal this from me if you want, but whenever someone calls me, this happened recently, and they're like, "I have this problem," and I'm like, "What's going on?" They're like, "I'm in a hotel. I have an interview tomorrow." It was like in a completely different city from where they were living, and I'm freaking out and I'm having an anxiety attack. And I was like, no, you're having like growth problems. I'm like,
Yeah.
congratulations, you have new problems. Like, and I say this a lot to my clients. I'm like, I don't want to see you till you have new problems. You know what I mean? It's
New
like,
level, new
but
devil.
right. So that client, that's so beautiful that, like, of course, they, you played a role. Of course, I always believe we play a role. We plant seeds, and but I always give my clients all the credit because they're the ones, like,
They're doing it.
doing all the hard. They're doing it. However, you were amazing at building again that process and helping them to stay in perpetual grace.
Yeah.
And they were able to navigate, oh my god, and develop a
Yeah.
pathway forward, and, like, that's, oh my god,
I was
awesome.
teary.
Like,
I really
oh,
was.
there's nothing better than that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
when I
cool.
see, like, I had this past Thanksgiving, I had so many families who crushed it. Like, they had so much anxiety because, the daughter's coming home or son from college and they're not sure. And, then it's like Thanksgiving Eve and the kids hung over, or the
Mhm.
other side, you know, the, the young adult is in recovery and all the, and it's like, where it's like, take a breath, like, what can we control? We bust out the circle of control. We look at, like, what, are some healthy do's and don'ts. How can we be really tactical? And then, of course, we let things go. And it's like amazing to see people in real time, like, feel, right, that, oh my God, neural pathway and that cortisol bath going on. And they got the midbrain happening, they got the fight or flight, and still somehow they head to the PFC and they make a new choice. Like, that's just, oh, there's nothing better. So the
Mhm.
fact that you're helping people, not that the work wasn't equally as important then,
Yeah.
or now, it sometimes we, like, view trench work as, like the real work, and it's all the real work because, like you're saying, now there's all these things that
Yeah.
are
It's
this
real
constellation.
legacy,
Yeah, a
you
hundred
know?
percent, hundred
It's
percent.
really cool. I mean, I always say that I don't have kids, but I have
Mm-hmm.
clients,
Mm-hmm.
from roughly, 20 to 65. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how old they are. They're my baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mama loves you,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
figure this out.
Yeah. Well, there's something very confident about that statement, and there's something that's very emotionally safe about that statement.
Mm,
And I do the same too with my clients. The second peak is called emotional mastery, and it's really about how to be unflappable amidst your own uncomfortable emotions, or amidst your freaking psychotic 14-year-old entitled princess daughter who is raging in your face, and that's very hard, or your 18-year-old or your 22-year-old or whatever that is. And the moment we can, oh, kind of like drop those shoulders, take that breath, it's almost like the world slows down.
mhm,
It's almost like we see the Robert Frost poem, there's the two paths,
mhm.
and you could see where you would have gone 5 seconds ago or 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago. and then you're floating above yourself almost. It's like a healthy dissociation, and then you choose the new choice, right? And it's not happening to you, it's happening through you. And that's like next level stuff.
Yeah.
That's next level stuff.
Mm.
And the work that you're doing, it's such deep work. I don't need to tell you that. You're really helping people to reclaim, right, their identities,
Mhm.
their strengths, not carry, right, this kind of shame stick, not carry. And it's also, I can go off on a tangent, but what kills me about um, where we are as a society, and there is a lot of over scaffolding. It was really funny. I actually made a little post yesterday. It's not going to be, won't be posted yet, but it's all about why I love Stranger Things. And I literally start the post. The hook is like, "Are you preparing your kids to fight Vecna and the Demigorgon in the Upside Down?" And it's
I
like,
love
yes,
that show too.
I love that show, but I love that show for a couple of reasons because that's my childhood,
Mm.
and I. Uh,
Ahoy.
I hope my kids are not listening, but like I jumped turnstiles on the subway in
Yeah.
New York City and
Oh, no.
you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
lost, like, I never forget, like so many times, like not having enough money for the train and then getting kicked out at Hicksville. It was always like Hicksville. And I lived in Ronkonkoma and then having to figure that shit out. And that's pre-cell phone. And so, you know, that show speaks to what is possible,
Mm.
right? With community, not just yourself,
Yeah.
but what you can call out of your own self. And there's a freedom there. And
Yeah.
so when we don't help our young adult or teen, I'm a big fan of
Mm.
teens, even tweens, sweeping the floor,
Mhm.
setting the table,
Mhm.
have industry, you're just inviting mental health.
Oh, yeah.
They are 100%. There's a direct correlate between a lack of purpose. I just started reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Is that
Oh,
the
we talked about that.
did
Yeah,
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 yeah.
when
Oh,
we
did
met.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I just finished A Boys and Men, which is a great book too. But it's all about like if you don't have a why, you're
Oh,
screwed.
you're
You
done.
know what I
You're
mean?
done.
You're done.
It's the whole thing.
So you're giving people themselves back,
Mm.
right? You're giving them an opportunity to reclaim
Mm.
their purpose, which is going to ward off so much mental health. So I just think the world of you. I've enjoyed every interaction and
Thank you.
cross referral that we've had. And take a hot second here and
Mhm.
shout out how folks can reach out to you
Sure.
if they want to learn more, and how can people get you?
Yeah, so, I mean, the most popular way that people come into contact with me is the consult, right? So I do a free 45-minute consult, and you can sign up right online, right? So my website, thetruthatwork.com, you can see it right up here.
Mhm.
It's all over the website, or you could just go to thetruthatwork.com/consult. It goes right into my calendar, and I am there, and we will talk. In addition, I'm all over LinkedIn. I have tons of fresh content. I have a weekly newsletter, lots of tips and mindset kind of stuff. So there's something for everybody.
Mhm.
So come on over to the website, sign up for a consult, go head on over to LinkedIn, connect with me, and we'll talk.
Awesome. I'm gonna do the same right now. I always end with a similar PSA here. So if anyone out there has a teen, it could be a tween too. I just got a whole bunch of tweens. Bunch of 12
Mm,
tough
junior high.
ADHD,
Oof.
ADHD, ODD, a bunch of acronyms. Not the biggest fan of the acronyms. There's always, an impetus or a reason behind all that. I'm a big fan of looking at the system versus the symptom. But if you got a tween, if you have a teen, if you have a young adult who's struggling with mental health or addiction issues, and you are scratching your head and you're living on an emotional roller coaster every day and losing sleep and not knowing where to start, please also book a free. We're both doing free 45-minute
What we
consults
do.
here. That's what we do. You just head over to fourpeaksparents.com. There is also a free newsletter that folks can sign up for and get tips and tools right to your inbox. There's obviously this podcast. And just don't go it alone. And thank you.
Thank you.
Kelley, and I love the work you're doing. I think, especially now, rather than avoiding AI or avoiding this or avoiding that, I love the whole idea of learning how to fish, learning how to stay in process, learning how to
Mhm,
be agile and nimble for
mhm.
the next kind of new correction, because anyone who says they know what the market looks like in a year is lying, or 2 years.
Yeah.
We don't know. And so having you as a guide and a coach and a mentor, and then learning and developing these ingrained skills that will be evergreen is so amazing and worthwhile. So thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a great week. And thank you again, Kelley. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.